Hi everyone. Welcome to Verdict Room. Today, we're diving into some intense family dynamics where stepmoms take center stage. From boundaries being crossed to deep emotional conflicts, these stories explore what happens when step-parents overstep and how family relationships can be tested. Grab some popcorn and get ready for a roller coaster of emotions, because things are about to get real. It's verdict time. Story number 1.
Am I the jerk for telling my stepmom to get out of my room and that she has no right over me because she is not my legal guardian? My 17F relationship with my parents has been rocky for a long time. My dad got with my stepmom when I was 3, and my bio mom has never been in the picture, so I used to look up to my stepmom and see her as my real mother. That is, until she decided to start acting like a hefty little snake after my brother, 9M, was born. She did horrible things to me, manipulated my father into thinking I, age 8, was toxic and lying, and convinced him to start treating me the way she did as well. Only recently has my father and I's relationship begun to heal, and I've forgiven him. My stepmom, however, is the only person alive who just looking at me makes me pissed off. Every time I interact with her, it ruins my day. My room is in the basement, so I never talk to my family much anyway because I have no interest in making myself a martyr. My dad got me a computer for college after years of being overly controlling and not allowing me to have any devices, not even school computers. I tried to tell him the password and he told me that I'm almost 18, so he doesn't need to look through my stuff anymore. If I do something genuinely bad, he'll just kick me out, which you know what? That's fair. So tell me why I come back from the gym to see that woman in my room, snooping through my things. I asked her if she needed anything, and she said she was looking for a vape. I think she was just being nosy and controlling again because I've never even held one of those things. I tell her she needs to get out because my dad said my privacy was to be respected. She said she's my mother and can do whatever she wants, and then demanded to know the password to my computer. I obviously told her that she was out of her righteous mind if she thought I was forking that over. I reminded her that my father is my legal guardian. She is a registered step-parent, but is not my guardian, nor has she legally adopted me. My father has always had the full and final say in everything regarding me. She started yelling at me, obviously, and I told her that she stopped being my mother when she stopped seeing me as a person. That seemed to hurt her, and I felt a little bad. I told her to get the fuck out of my room, and she just circled back to the computer. We got into an argument about it, and my dad had to break it up and tell her she wasn't allowed to bother me anymore. She kept telling me that I was being disrespectful to her and that I wasn't appreciating her for raising me when my bio mom didn't want to, which stung a little, because she's not entirely wrong. I do think I was more than a little disrespectful in my tone and choice of words, but I don't believe in showing authority to adults once they give me a reason not to. She doesn't treat me like a person, and I won't treat her like an authority, especially when she acts like a petty little toddler most of the time. I haven't any idea what my dad sees in her. Should I at least apologize for being mean, or just tell her that she is a jerk?
Verdict time. Not the jerk. Reason 1, the stepmom overstepped by invading OP's privacy. Reason 2, OP's anger is valid, given the toxic history with the stepmom and how she's been manipulated. Jerk meter. Stepmom, 100% jerk, manipulative, disrespectful, and overstepping clear boundaries. Father, 60% jerk, didn't step in to defend OP or address the stepmom's behavior. Story number 2.
Am I the jerk for screaming and banning my stepmother after what she said to my mother? I, 25F, have a wonderful relationship with my stepmother and father, as well with my mother. My mother had me with my father when she was 18, and my father was 19. Soon after my mother brought me home. She ditched me in the middle of the night. And nobody hasn't seen her for years. My stepmother came into my life when I was 1, and she has a daughter of her own few years older than me. My father and stepmother married when I was 3, and my stepsister was 8. I saw my stepmother as a mom and called her mom. She did everything a mother is supposed to do for their daughter. She never treated me like I was an outsider. I am very close to everyone in my family. My mother did try to come back into my life when I was 5, because she was pregnant at the time with my little sis. But my father didn't let her. He was very hesitant until I turned 7. He allowed my mother to slowly come into my life. She was a stranger to me. She did have my little sister who I got to meet, and she was 2 at the time. She told me the reason she ran away was she had mental problems and went to get help. I was very cold towards her. I didn't call her mom, and she didn't force me. She took her time and let me have my space. Until I finally started to get close to her and my little sister. My mother did have a great job and a big home. I became very close to my mother and my sister. My father and stepmother allowed me to bring my little sister to my house all the time, and everything was great until my girlfriend proposed to me. We are planning a small wedding at my mother's lake house with our close friends and family. The whole problem started when I wanted to have my mother sit in the front, and my stepmother didn't like that. She wanted her family and my father's family to sit in the front, while my mother was in the back. My stepmother is fine with my little sister in the front. I did disagree, and thought that was the end of it. When it came to dancing, I wanted to dance with my mother and my father. My stepmother asked if she was getting a dance. I did say no, and she was quiet for a while. When I was going to get my wedding dress, I brought my 3 best friends, who were my maid of honor and bridesmaid, my little sister, stepsister, my mom, and my stepmother. My stepmother was upset, and I asked her what was wrong, and she told me that she is uncomfortable that my mother was here. I told her she is my mother. My stepmother cut me off and said that she was my mother, not my bio mother. I told her to not say that and not to ruin my day. She stayed quiet the whole time. I guess she told my stepsister, and my stepsister said that my stepmother has been upset about the whole wedding planning. She feels like my mother is in the way, when my mother hasn't done anything and respects my stepmother's space. I told my stepsister that my stepmother not liking my mother is not my problem and that she needed to put her big girl pants on and act like her age. My stepsister got mad and just walked away. She told my father, and he called me. He said what I said was uncalled for and wanted me to include my stepmother in more and my mother less. He said that she raised me like her own and that she feels like she's getting replaced. I told him I wasn't replacing her, and she was included. She just had a recent problem with my mother when she didn't before. He just hung up, and I ignored them both for a while. I then hosted a late engagement dinner and invited all my friends and family. Everything was going great until my mother wanted to give a speech to me and my fiancé. She gave me a wonderful one, and when she said I was a special daughter, she was lucky to raise me. My stepmother got up and told her to shut the fuck up and that she was my mother. That my mother abandoned me when I was just newly born and missed a lot of my milestones, and she raised me when I was barely 1 and taught me to walk and talk. Changed me and fed me. Everything a mother was supposed to do, and walked out. Everyone was stunned, and my mother was crying and wanted to leave. I was comforting her. I went to go after my stepmother, and I screamed at her for ruining my engagement dinner and what she said to my mother. My stepmother tried to talk, but I screamed over her and told her she is banned from my wedding and I wanted her out of my life. My stepmother just left and hasn't messaged me or anything. My father doesn't want to talk to me or my stepsister. I feel like I did the wrong thing and should have just not said anything. Am I the jerk?
Verdict time. You're the jerk. Reason 1, the stepmom was hurt, but the OP should have approached the situation calmly instead of blowing up. Reason 2, OP's bio mom did take credit for raising her, which was insensitive to her stepmom who did all the hard work. Jerk meter. Stepmom, 50% jerk, hurt by the situation but handled it poorly, lashing out. Father, 50% jerk, didn't help mediate the conflict and sided with his wife without considering his daughter's feelings. OP, 70% jerk. While justified in feeling hurt, the reaction was overly harsh and not a great way to resolve the issue. Mother, 70% jerk, could have been more sensitive, especially at the engagement dinner. Story number 3.
Am I the jerk for not helping my dad's wife because I'm pissed about the trouble she brought into our lives? My dad got married 5 years ago. I, 17 had my whole world turned upside down by it because he married someone who had a really bitter ex, and she has kids, 7, 9, and 10, with him. Her ex smashed our downstairs windows, which we can't prove, but he attacked my dad, which he served 6 months for. Used to sit outside the house for hours, and he'd say threatening shit, or he'd insult me and my dad and dad's wife. The police were in and out of the house a lot, and they were called on him a lot by my dad and his wife. I couldn't have friends over during the worst of that stuff. I couldn't leave the house without my dad. I couldn't even go to my mom's grave in case the ex followed. There were times her ex started shit, and I was asked to basically comfort the kids because they wanted to see their dad and hug him, but my dad's wife wanted them kept away. He had them 50% of the time, and those times were way different. I liked it way better when they weren't here, but dad's wife was fighting for custody. A lot of legal stuff happened. A lot of stuff was said. The ex showed up and stalked us pretty often. It was stressful and intense, and my dad pulled me from all my extracurriculars after a while because he wanted me to be safe. I resented him for putting me through it, but I also resented his wife for letting others' lives get fucked up because of her ex. She was just some woman, and dad put being with her over my safety, since he was so worried about it. And she would say how glad she was that she and the kids had a better family, and yet she didn't mind fucking up our lives. We had a few more incidents with shit getting destroyed and security cameras not getting a face or a good luck at the person doing it. It got real bad for that stuff when my dad's wife was given primary custody and her ex every other weekend. It eventually got a little better. There's still toxic shit with my dad's wife and her ex. But my dad and his wife act like everything's perfect, and we're some happy family. I wish my dad never met his wife. I don't like her, and I can't wait to turn 18 and no longer deal with any of the ex bullshit. I have a job, which I can't work late at because we still have to take precautions because of the ex, and I get to do what I want again, with some added restrictions. My dad knows most of how I feel, but I never let it all out there. But he knows. He can feel it. But his wife really believed we were a real family. Last weekend, she asked me to ask for a different shift at work so I could help her out with an errand. She wanted to pick up some DIY stuff and wanted my help lifting/carrying. I told her I wouldn't do it. She said she thought it'd be fun, and since I like DIY stuff, she thought I'd be willing to help. I told her I wasn't, and she wanted to know why, and I let her know that she brought nothing but trouble into my life, and I didn't want to help her. She took it hard, and my dad looked upset too after she told him. She asked me if I really hated her for her ex's actions. I told her she didn't care about the trouble she brought into my life, so why would I care if she was otherwise the victim? I told her she selfishly brought other people into her mess. Later in the week, my dad asked me if I'd be willing to help her another time, and I said no. He told me he was disappointed that I resented them finding each other and building a life together. He said he thought our new family was worth it, and he'd hoped I'd feel the same. I told him I didn't, and I said he wasn't blameless either. Am I the jerk?
Verdict time. Not the jerk. Reason 1. OP's feelings are valid after being put in a difficult situation by his father's choice of partner. Reason 2. The stepmother's actions, while not malicious, contributed to significant trauma in OP's life. Jerk meter. Stepmom, 70% jerk, brought unnecessary turmoil into the family's life and ignored the impact on OP. Father, 60% jerk, chose the relationship over his son's well-being, failing to recognize the toll it took on him. Story number 4.
Am I the jerk after my stepmom kicked me out the day I had chemo? 32F, diagnosed with breast cancer. I sold my condo a month before I was diagnosed and didn't want to go to my mom's house. My stepmom convinced me to move out of state with them because they had a big house and my dad could take me to chemo. The month that I arrive, my grandma is diagnosed with cancer, so my dad starts flying out of state to visit her. My dad is also not my biological father. He married my mom when I was 3, but has always been in my life. I have no memories without him, and after they divorced, he was always present for everything. So everything is going seemingly fine until the week my dad left to take my grandma to chemo. I brought my 12-year-old dog with me. He's 6 pounds and otherwise well-behaved. I have siblings in the house, 10 and 14, who pile up the trash cans where they overflow, and my dog took toilet paper and ripped it 2 separate times. So instead of telling me, she calls my dad to tell him while he's taking care of my grandma, and he sends me a text the next day saying we need to talk, and that she doesn't feel comfortable talking to me. I was upset. I've known her since I was 12. I've known her for 20 years, and she doesn't feel comfortable talking to me. So I stayed in my room for 2 days with my dog and tried to stay out of her way. My dad flies back in time to take me to chemo. I was at the cancer center for 8 hours getting blood work, pre-medications, and chemo. I get back to the house starving for dinner and heated up some food to eat. She gets home a couple minutes later and storms to her room. I'm talking to my sister, and all I hear is yelling, and I know it's about me. I could hear her saying, "You were with her all day, you don't care about your family." My dad tries to convince me to speak to her, and I say no. After an hour, he gets her to come out, and she's yelling and throwing things saying that she's going to take the kids and leave. That he only cares about me and no one else. That I'm just a stranger, and I'm not even blood related. That I disrespected her by not talking to her for 2 days. That I'm always negative BC, I have cancer, and whenever she asks me how I'm doing, it's never positive. My dad just stood there and said nothing. When she was finished, he offered me a hotel. I grabbed my stuff and my dog and drove 2 hours to my aunt's hours after chemo. Next day, they both text me. I wanted to move forward for my dad and the kids. I apologized for disrespecting her. She said she meant everything. I moved out as it was toxic and continued my chemo with the help of my aunt and BF. We pretended to go back to normal. My last chemo was December 22nd, and my double mastectomy was January 23rd. A month after surgery, my dad tells me she's disappointed in me BC. I didn't call her for Christmas or for her birthday, January 21st. I told him he was being unfair and unreasonable, that he was biased and would go along with whatever she said. I was sick from chemo on Christmas, in bed fighting for my life, and in January preparing for the biggest surgery of my life. I wasn't thinking about her. She was the last thing on my mind. He wanted me to apologize to her for not reaching out, and I said no. I want nothing to do with her, and I never want to see her again. Am I the jerk?
Verdict time. Not the jerk. Reason 1, OP was going through a life-threatening illness and should not have been treated so harshly. Reason 2, the stepmom's emotional manipulation and lack of support in a time of crisis are inexcusable. Jerk meter. Stepmom, 100% jerk, abusive, emotionally manipulative, and unsympathetic during a health crisis. Father, 80% jerk, failed to defend OP, was biased, and didn't recognize the toxicity of the situation. Story number 5.
Am I the jerk for refusing to help my struggling birth father? I, female, 40, am lesbian. When my mom was alive, she knew and respected my choice to keep it a secret, as my dad was very angry and a giant homophobe. Unfortunately, I lost my only support, my mom, when she passed away when I was 16. My dad met my stepmother less than a month later, through his church buddies. They got married within a few months. My stepmother had 2 daughters around my age. I was doing great at school, and I was generally a good kid. My stepsisters were always causing trouble at school, were giant losers, and my stepmother hated me from the day one. One day, she read my diary and found out that I like girls. She asked me, and I begged her not to tell my dad. She gave me a hug and promised me. Within a few hours, I heard my dad screaming and furious. She basically not only told my dad, but also cried and said she and her angel daughters don't feel safe anymore because of my sexual orientation. I remember my dad broke into my room with his belt in his hand. After he beat the living crap out of me while the door was open and everyone could clearly see me, he threw me out of his house. I begged him to let me stay until morning, and he said no, and didn't even allow me pick up little things I had that meant a lot to me, like my mom's photos, gifts she bought me. After spending nights in shelter, I was fortunate enough to find a forever home when my mom's best friend and her husband took me in, and I became their daughter. I went to a great university eventually, and right now I have a great job. Here is the thing. My stepmother has emailed me. She heard I have a good job. She is saying my dad is sick, he needs care, and they need money. She wants me to support them. She went on and on about their hardship. Am I in a holy for refusing to help? I can easily help, but why should I? They are not my family, they kicked me out. Is it wrong not giving them a second chance?
Verdict time. Not the jerk. Reason 1, OP was abandoned and abused, she owes them nothing. Reason 2, her father's actions were unforgivable, and his request for help is manipulative. Jerk meter. Stepmother, 100% jerk enabled the father's abuse and now wants to benefit from OP's success. Father, 90% jerk abused and abandoned his daughter and now expects help. The biggest jerk of today's episode. Stepmother, story number 5. Why? She not only betrayed OP's trust by enabling her father's abuse but now seeks financial help from the same person she hurt. The lack of remorse and understanding makes her the biggest jerk in the video. And now we want to hear from you. Do you agree with the verdicts, or do you see things differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining us in the verdict room. See you this Thursday for our next episode, where we'll be diving into divorce stories, husband's point of view. If you want your story featured anonymously and for our viewers to decide who is the jerk, send it to verdictroom@proton.me.